It was supposed to be a demolition. In 2005, a crew of municipal workers arrived at the edge of the Peloponnese Peninsula in southern Greece, tasked with leveling a long-abandoned estate known locally as 2 to Fo Ta, the House of Light. It had once functioned as a state-funded orphanage, closed abruptly in 1977 following what official documents called a loss of funding and anomalous behavior in minors. No records of adoption, no records of transfer, no children listed by name, just of vanishing. The estate had been sealed for 28 years. Yet when demolition began, workers uncovered something no one expected. A door behind a collapsed wall in the east wing, one that didn't exist in the architectural plans. It opened into a small circular room. No windows, one chair. And on the floor, stacked in spirals from the center outward, 327 handwritten notebooks. Each notebook was bound in red thread. Each one bore a different child's name, each written in a distinct, youthful hand. But there were no last names, no birth dates, only first names, most of them ancient: Selene, Ikaros, Erixo, Damon. Some notebooks were written in Greek, others in perfect French, German, Latin, and even archaic Polish. Some had passages scratched out violently, others interrupted mid-sentence by a single word, repeating down the page like static: remembered, remembered, remembered. The Greek government seized the notebooks and classified them under cultural preservation. But copies leaked. A group of independent linguists and cognitive researchers were granted access by a whistleblower known only as, "Oh, the findings were impossible." Across dozens of notebooks, the children described the modern world in uncanny, granular detail. Despite their writings dating back to the mid-1970s, decades before smartphones, globalized internet, or the euro currency existed, one entry signed by a child named Selene reads, "In their world, they call it Athens. But the glass spire isn't there yet. They don't know the machines hum beneath their feet. They don't remember us, but we still do." Another child drew a perfect outline of a metro system that wouldn't be constructed until 2001. Another described watching a cathedral burn on television. 2 years before the Notre Dame fire occurred, they were not imagining the future. They were documenting it. From memory. The children called themselves the Remembered, and over again, they wrote the same refrain. We weren't born, we were returned. Someone had to remember what was lost. Researchers initially dismissed it as psychosis, collective delusion, or suggestive storytelling, until one notebook, written in near-perfect Latin, described a term never before seen in linguistics. "'Tis the orphans of truth." In that notebook, the child claims they were created in the moment someone forgot. That when too many minds forget a person, place, or truth, reality must rebalance itself by birthing a vessel to hold the memory. So the universe does not unravel from amnesia. They are not humans. They are structures of recall. But here's where the story breaks open. One of the children described a figure, not a caretaker, not a teacher, a visitor. She came during the night, wrapped in silver, her face always shadowed, but her voice like water. The children called her the Mother of Light, not because she was warm, but because she flickered at the edges. Selena's notebook holds this passage. She told me I was her breath, and when no one remembered her name, I came to exist. She kissed my forehead and called me her anchor, but I don't know what I'm holding down. In the notebook's margin, scribbled vertically, are the words, "To forget is to unbuild." The final page of each notebook ends the same way. The handwriting fades mid-sentence. Then comes a spiral drawn with growing pressure, ink turned to scratches, and at the center, a circle, empty. Some say it represents the children being erased again. Others say it is the memory still waiting to be remembered. The names changed. The handwriting varied. The languages crossed centuries, but the drawings were always the same. At least 65 of the 327 notebooks included rough maps, sketched in pencil or ink of a strange concentric city, circular, tiered like a labyrinth, with 7 radial gates and a central spire that always bore the same label, Phi Omega Tau Alpha, light. They called it Aletheia, not a metaphor, a place. A city they claimed to be from, not born, not raised, but remembered into. And every child described it with haunting similarity. Streets paved in etched obsidian. Doors that only opened when you remembered the correct moment, a sky that pulsed like a heartbeat, a clock tower with no hands. But that chimed when you forgot someone's name. It wasn't fiction, not to them. They spoke of districts, weather, tastes, and smells. One child named Damon wrote, "There's a library that has only blank books. You touch the spine and remember what was meant to be inside." Another girl, Lyra, added, "We lived near the canal. It ran in both directions, so you could watch time go forward or back, but only if you didn't look directly at it." Psychologists were baffled. They considered folly, plus years, mass delusion through suggestion. But these children were recorded years apart. Many were orphans since infancy, and none had access to each other's journals. The impossible consistency led investigators to a more disturbing theory, that the children were not remembering the same place. They were remembering the same memory, one that did not belong to them, but was returning to the world through them. In 2007, the whistleblower O released a folder labeled Aletheia_archive restored_01. Inside was a single audio file, Aletheia_0.wav, no metadata, no timestamp, just 44 seconds of low-layered tones, some mechanical, some organic. First, it seemed like white noise. But at second 11, a faint whisper begins. Not lost, it's just not remembered. At second 27, listeners report a strange sensation, as if they were being remembered by something else. And at second 43, the sound fades into a single inhale, like the beginning of a thought, then silence. The effects were immediate. Those who listened to the file reported temporary aphasia, déjà vu, lasting longer than 1 minute. Emotional responses to places they'd never visited, recalling childhood memories that weren't theirs. One subject described it as, like someone downloaded a memory into me and left it there. Like a note I can't read but can feel. It was theorized that Aletheia_0.wav wasn't a sound file at all, but a trigger, a mnemonic key, designed to unlock something buried in the architecture of the mind, not the brain. The mind. The shared fabric of perception, history, and memory. Because Aletheia wasn't a city, it was a cache, a place where forgotten truths were stored until someone remembered them again. The children didn't create Aletheia. They were born the moment someone, somewhere, remembered it wrong. In one final journal, unsigned, written in silver pencil on black paper, a child writes, "Aletheia is not a place you find. It finds you the moment the world misremembers itself." And below that, in a trembling hand, "We are not orphans. We are memory's second draft." Her name was Celine. She was one of the few children whose notebook never included drawings, only dates. 1 page, 1 date. Always spaced exactly 44 years apart. 1936, 1980, 2024, under each year. A single phrase. When the spiral opens, we step through to remind the world what it forgot. She called it the spiral gate, an unseen threshold that allows memory to re-enter the world from the place it had been buried. Not death, not time travel, something else. A breathing moment in history, a pulse, and 2024 would be the next opening. In a separate journal, another child described an event from 1973, a place in New Mexico. A 44-second broadcast, breathing, a voice at the end that whispered, "Are you still here?" Researchers made the connection instantly. It was a near-perfect reference to a real-world, unexplained event. The Lazarus signal, a mysterious, unsourced frequency captured by the Allen Observatory in 1973. It had appeared during an eclipse, lasted 44 seconds, ended with breathing. At the time, it was dismissed as a cosmic anomaly. But these children, writing from across Europe decades ago, knew the shape of it, wrote it in detail, with no access. The conclusion was chilling. They remembered events from other timelines, worlds that had already happened, forgotten, collapsed, but not deleted, stored in Aletheia. The Vault of Unmade Hours, sealed deep beneath the Institute from the Archivist's paradox, was thought to be an isolated anomaly. But a recovered notebook from a child named Orestes contained a crude map of the Vault's layout, a perfect match, except the notebook was dated 1966, 11 years before the vault was built. Next to the sketch was a quote, "Era built this, but not yet. She always has." Celine's final entry confirms the theory. We are the pre-memory. We arrive before the record. Before the breath. Before the forgetting becomes too heavy for the world to hold. One audio file recovered from a corrupted archival disk, marked only with a spiral, contains a child's voice whispering backwards. When reversed, it says, "The spiral opens when the mind hesitates. When the world doubts what it remembers, come back to help it lie." The gate, the spiral, the vault, the Lazarus signal. They are not separate events. They are corrections, not warnings, not miracles, but reset points for a fragile world that forgets its own scaffolding. And the children? They are the pylons that hold memory upright when the world forgets how to believe in itself. They are the breath before the breath. And now, the spiral is almost open again. In Selena's notebook, the last entry is dated March 13th, 2024, the date of the next total solar eclipse. One sentence. Centered. She will be born again. Not from flesh, but from what was not supposed to be remembered. Underneath a spiral, drawn in blood. At its center, one word, Lazarus. March 13th, 2024. The spiral opened. At 3:44 a.m., GMT, satellites across the southern hemisphere went dark for 44 seconds. No cosmic event, no solar flare, just silence. Then, a global phenomenon began, subtle at first. Small lapses in memory, not forgetting but misremembering. Cities called by names they never had. People recalling childhood homes that had never existed. Mothers remembering children who were never born but still cried when shown old photographs. Then came the dreams, spirals, breathing. A woman in silver who said, "You've held your breath long enough." At 4:28 a.m., a signal burst through the European seismic network. Not an earthquake, but a pulse. Its epicenter, a sealed zone in southern Greece. Coordinates matched a location marked in Celine's notebook, a stone courtyard hidden beneath olive trees. No record of construction, no official name. Locals called it Tau Omicron Mu, Nu Wei Mu, Alpha Pi Omicron Upsilon Alpha, Nu Alpha Sigma, Alpha Y Nu Epsilon Iota, the tomb that breathes. By dawn, the tomb was gone, replaced by something else, 7 concentric rings of scorched earth. In the center, a spiraling indentation, and a single object, a red-threaded notebook, blank, except for the first page. Welcome back. Around the world. More appeared. Notebooks, red thread, seemingly spontaneous. Some were found under pillows, some in drawers that had never been opened. Some were already written in the finder's own handwriting. They told stories that hadn't happened yet. Memories of places no longer on maps. Accounts of conversations, from dreams no one shared, and all of them signed. Children of Aletheia. Forensic analysis failed to explain the notebook's age or ink source. Linguists couldn't agree on the tense being used. It wasn't past, present, or future. It was reflected time. Language bent around something the human mind could only hold in dreams. Psychologists warned of global dissociation. Philosophers spoke of timeline recursion. Governments ignored it. But those who had listened to the Aletheia_0.wav signal months earlier began disappearing. Not physically, but archivally. Their names faded from records, voices removed from voicemails. Their birth certificates voided by systems with no human intervention. One by one, they were forgotten by the world that had borrowed them. In a final, anonymous broadcast, a voice, childlike, layered with static, offered the last known message from what is now called the spiral event. You didn't make us. You forgot us. We came back to hold the shape of things, because memory is gravity, and you were beginning to float away, So what was Aletheia? Not a city, not a vault, not even a spiral, but a counterweight. A pressure against the entropy of human forgetting. A safeguard of things not meant to be erased. And the children. They were anchors, vessels of memory that never belonged to one life, but all lives. Ghosts of unrealized truths. Echoes of a version of the world that was almost real, till we chose not to remember it. Some say the spiral will open again in 2068. Others say it never closed. That every dossier vu, every misplaced photo, every unexplainable scar, is a crack where Aletheia is bleeding back in. So if you've ever found a notebook you don't remember writing, or recalled a childhood you never lived, or seen a name in a dream that lingered like perfume, you might be one of them. Forgotten truth, remembered too late.